This is Eric Auger, realtor with America's Choice Realty, innovator, entrepreneur, and creator of the signature approach to sell homes. Today's subject is time is the enemy of price and profit. So time is the enemy of price and profit. It is a proven fact. There's been countless studies made on the subject. A house that sits on the market always sells less for a house that sells almost immediately. In 2016, Zillow did a complete study over thousands of homes all over the country, and the conclusion were obvious. The longer it sits on the market, the less it sells for. And a house, for example, that sits on the market for 120 days will sell for about 10% less than a house that sells within the first 30 days. Now, do the math. If it's a $500,000 home, we're talking about $50,000 in profit. That is a huge chunk, and that's not even factoring the cost of maintaining and owning the house for the 6 months when it doesn't sell. And that's not even taking into consideration the emotional toll that it takes on you, because for 6 months you keep showing the house, you don't live, it's not your house anymore, and it drags and drags and drags and nothing happens. So let's look at what are the reasons why a house may sit on the market. Reason number one is you, the seller, refuse to be real and believe that your house will sell for an exaggerated price, so you systematically turn down offers. I've seen it happening. People who are in love with the house, and nothing wrong with that, but when it comes to selling it, you have to put your emotions aside. And so we were getting offers, and they were very, very close to the asking price, but it wasn't the asking price, and the owner systematically turned them down, said, no, this is the price I want, I will not budge. Well, guess what happened? A month went by, 2 months went by, 3 months went by, and as the time went, the offers were lower and lower and lower. And that caused the house to languish, to sit on the market forever. Reason number two is you only want to concentrate on what's great about your house, and you refuse to acknowledge its drawbacks. And so you get a lot of buyers visits, but you get no offer. That's a second classic scenario. And I can see why this happens. It's your house, you love it, and this is where your family's been for years, this is where you have all those memories, and so you kind of got used to its drawbacks, and you kind of like set them aside, you don't see them anymore. But when it comes to selling your house, again, you have to set that aside, and you have to be very objective. If your house backs to a railroad track or a highway, or if it has a high high voltage line, right across your backyard, these things are real to the buyer. You may have learned to ignore them because you've lived in that house for so long, but to the buyer, these things are very real, and they will take that into consideration. So if you refuse to acknowledge that truth about your house, what will happen is that you may get visits, but when buyers notice those drawbacks, they'll walk away and you won't have any offer, which in the end causes your house to sit on the market. Reason number four is you voluntarily price your house higher to leave room for negotiation. That is probably the biggest problem that I see in the marketplace, is homeowners who figure that they need to pad their price so that they have room for negotiation, so that they can give the impression to the buyer is getting a good deal, while in reality the seller is getting his price. Big mistake. Again, there's been studies that were made across the country, thousands and thousands of homes. And what happens is that if you just overprice your house by about 5%, that's not much, 5%, you lose about 40% of the buyers who are in the market looking for a home. That is very significant. And so what will that cause is that cause your house to have very, very few showings and no offers because the value is not there. And problem number four is you set the price based on how much you need to cash out, regardless of what the market is telling you. That is something that I see happening too, is, a homeowner, usually if you want to sell your house, it's because you want to buy another one, and you kind of have an idea of what you want to buy, and so you need how much you need to cash out from your house. And so some sellers will actually price their house based on what they need, regardless of what the market is telling them it is worth. What happens when you do that is you get no showings, no offers, and it drags. Now, like I said, there is a financial cost to your house sitting on the market. But what people overlook very often is the emotional cost. And I want you to consider this. Imagine your house is on the market and you get very, very few showings. And the process drags for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then you get a phone call from the agent saying, hey, look, we need to reduce the price. We're not getting any action. You may reduce the price, you're pretty upset. And the process keeps on going and going. All that time you're not living in your house, you have to keep it in perfect condition. You have to be on buyer's schedule. Then you have your family, your loved one, or the people to whom you said, hey, we're moving to a nicer home, who start looking at you and say, hey, what's up with your house? What's going on? And then the embarrassment comes into play saying, I don't know what's going on. It's not selling. And then from the embarrassment, you start feeling the anxiety because now you're going on 6 months and so on and so on. And the longer you go in time, the lower the price of the offers are going to be, which means you're taking a bigger haircut, which adds to the anxiety. So you can imagine how this has the potential to turn your life completely upside down and turn what was a noble cause into a complete nightmare for you and your loved one. So now the good thing is that it does not have to be this way. The possibility is as followed. Number one, if you acknowledge that the market drives prices, the price of your house, and so you price it accordingly so that you can find that happy medium between maximizing your profit and making sure that you minimize the number of days of the market on the market by offering the right value. Then you cut the time that it's going to take for your house to sell down drastically, which maximizes your chances of getting a much higher price. Possibility number two is you're very objective about the drawbacks of your house. And you factor them in when you price it. If your house is backing behind a railroad track, that railroad track is not going anywhere and buyers are going to see it. You better take that in the equation right away so that you price it right, so that you can attract the right kind of buyer, the buyer who doesn't mind the railroad tracks, but because he's paying a little less. Then you minimize time on the market and you maximize the sales price and your profit. Possibility number three is you understand that when pricing too high, you lose buyers' interest before they even get into their car. And so you prefer to be firm on your price rather than to lose showings. That's a big one. Here's what happened. Buyers start their search online. 97% of them. It's a proven fact. And so they look at pictures and they look at the price and they will match the pictures to the price. If the ratio value price is there, they might get in their car and come look at your house. Now, if the ratio is completely out of whack, if the price is so high compared to what the pictures are showing, they will skip your house. So you better understand that right away. And padding your price is a huge mistake. So you're much better off to adjust your price to the value with the understanding that when you get offers, you're going to be firm. At least you get showings, you get offers. And then possibility number 4, my iPad just turned off, is you understand that buyers do not care how much you need to clear out of your house, and you price it based on the market rather than your own need. Again, here's a big mistake that I see happening all the time is sellers think that they control the price. Wrong. Buyers do. Your house is only worth what somebody is willing to offer for it. So the sooner you can acknowledge that fact, the faster your house will sell and the better your chances are to get a higher price. So how do you do all that? Well, principle number 1 is, the offers, you got to understand that the offers that you get in the first 30 days are always going to be the highest offers. Why? Because the listing is brand new. People are excited. They come through it. People aren't thinking yet, well, it's been a while on the market, so it must be tired. And there is another effect, is that remember that when you put your house on the market, the day you put it on the market, you're going to attract new buyers who are entering the market, but you also are going to attract the backlog of buyers who started looking for a house maybe 1, 2, 3 months ago. So you have that backlog, that build up, and that all of a sudden is seeing your house is for sale, so those buyers are going to come and look at it. Now, once you're past that first 30 days, you've gone through all that backlog of buyers, you've gone through all the new buyers that enter the market, and the only people who are going to come look at your house are the new buyers entering the market at that moment, which means it's going to be a lot less traffic, a lot less chances to get a higher offer. The second principle that you have to understand is buyers are comparison shoppers. In other words, they will look at one house, they will look at its features, its upgrades, and its price, and then they will get to your house, they will look at its features, its upgrades, and its price. They will compare both houses, and they will say, I prefer house 1 or I prefer house 2. So the key is to offer the right amount of value so that people will go, hey, you know what, this house offers a lot more for the money than this one, so I'm gonna keep this one as my priority, my number one house. So principle number 2, buyers are comparison shoppers. You need to understand that. Principle number 3 is, like I was saying earlier, pricing a house 5%, just 5% higher than its market value, and you will lose the interest of 40% of the buyer. You only have about 50 or 60% of the buyers who are in the market who are going to look at your house. You are just doing yourself a major disadvantage by doing that, because you lose so many showings, and who knows, one of them, it would probably be the right buyer for your house. And then principles number 4, is that the market is the market. Unfortunately, the market does not care about your priorities. I wish it did. It would make my life so much easier, but it does not care about your priority. The market is going to do what it does. It's neither good or bad. It just is. So how do you put that in action? Well, first you want to price to attract, you want to price it right away, like I said, so that you can have that backlog of buyer coming through your house, because that's where you have the best chances of getting that offer that you really want. Number 2 is, if your house has a drawback, if your house has drawbacks to it, such as a railroad track, maybe a smaller yard than the others, maybe an odd-shaped yard, or, I don't know, a highway, whatever the case may be, if it has drawbacks, the sooner you take that in consideration and the sooner you come to terms with the fact that they are not going to go away and it needs to be reflected in the price, the better off you are and the higher the offer you'll get. Number 3 is pricing at market value. Well, if you price your house at market value, right on the dot, you will attract about 90% of the buyer on the market. If you just go 1% under, you'll get to 100%. I'm not saying you have to underprice your house, but what I'm saying is that the sooner if you get your price right away, this is when you win. There's just no alternative to it. It sounds a little repetitive, but it is the truth. And number 4, if the market can't support the price that you want, if you absolutely need a certain amount of money and the market is not supporting that price, don't put your house on the market. You'll save yourself a lot of grief, a lot of impatience, and a lot of troubles later. So this is what we actually do with the signature approach to sell home. Our first step is always to do an assessment of your house. What is your house like? How does it compare to what's on the market? And we always look for that one property within 6 months that sold for more than the others within a 1-mile radius that's similar to yours. And the reason we do that is because we use that as a benchmark. Obviously, if that worked for these people, if the way the house is or was showcased and prepared worked for these people to get them more money, guess what? Chances are it's going to work for you too. So we use that house as a benchmark. So that's our first phase, is we assess where your house is. Second phase is we prepare. So preparation goes into, number 1, duplicating what happened in that other house as long as it makes financial sense. Sometimes those upgrades cost way too much money for you to even consider doing them. But oftentimes there are little things that you can do that will give you a $10 return for a $1 investment. And this is where we want to put your money and your time before you list your house on the market. The second aspect of that is we want you to inspect and repair everything. Here's why. If there are a lot of items that need repairs in your house, buyers are going to notice it, and if they make an offer, they will make a lower offer just because of that. Second step is they'll do an inspection. The inspection reports will list the number of repairs to do, and guess what the buyer is going to do? If a repair costs $500, it will tell you it's going to cost him $1,000, and it's going to ask you for a credit of $2,000. So by not doing the repairs up front, you end up paying for those repairs 3 times as much as you would have normally paid for them if you did it ahead of listing your house on the market. Third step is we want to showcase your house, and so that's what builders do. When you look at a builder house, how it is when you visit the model and you compare to what you get in real life, there is a big difference. And the reason why you take the time to showcase their house and stage them scientifically, and I'm not talking about the realtor who has a knack for decorating and calls himself a stager. I'm talking about a professional stager, the same person who does those model homes. When we create a space that is inviting to buyers, buyers, when we create a space where it feels good staying, where they can picture and imagine themselves living, relaxing, watching TV, playing in a yard, whatever the case may be, we create emotional attachment. When you create emotional attachment, logic goes out of the window. We want buyers to say, you know what, I want it, I don't care what it's going to take, this is it, I want this house. And that's where you win, because it takes all the barriers away. And then finally, 4 is market. Here's something that we do that's very interesting that very few agents do, is that we test our price before it goes to market. In other words, once we decide of a price with you for your house, and we decide that this is probably the best price we can get, and get you an offer in a short period of time before we release the house on the market, we're going to test that price. Why? Because once it is on the market, if that price is off, it's too late. The clock starts ticking, days on the market starts ticking. So we much prefer to test that price ahead of time, get feedback as far as to whether we're dead on or not. This way, if we need to make a change, we can make it before your house goes live in the MLS. So what's to remember is that there is a cost to emotional chaos inside of a real estate transaction, and not having someone who knows the rules of the